Hello, welcome to the licensing hearing on the 28th of August 2025. The first item on the agenda is to elect a chair for the meeting and understand that the subcommittee have elected Councillor Rose, is that correct? So I'll pass it over to Councillor Rose to chair.
Thank you very much. Second item is apologies for absence and opening comments. So in terms of opening comments, as well as this being live webcast now, a recording of this hearing will be made available to view on the council's website afterwards. In terms of apologies, we have none. Councillor Cuthbertson was substituted, but in the agenda, I believe that's already accounted for. Is it not?
No, it's just Councillor Wells has been substituted.
Okay. Councillor Murray was a substitute for Ian Cuthbertson. Thank you. In terms of introductions, item 3, we have the members here. So Councillor Michael Nichols, Jason Rose and Margaret Wells. Officers, we have Leslie Cook, the licensing officer, Rhys Williams, Democratic Services Officer, Sandra Brannigan and Lucy Waller, the legal advisors. And then we have the applicants, Katie and Amanda Speed, on behalf of Brewhemian Hopsody Limited, and the representative, Trevor Palmer. Any declarations of interest from anyone? Item 4, no. Number 5, exclusion of press and public. I'd like to propose, as is standard, that the press and public be excluded from the hearing during the subcommittee's deliberations and decision making at the end of the hearing for the reasons set out at agenda item 5. Is that okay with everybody? Yep. And then number 6, the determination of the application. So first up, let's confirm that everyone is happy for the procedure as follows. Leslie, the licensing officer, presenting their reports, and then an opportunity for the applicant, Katie and Amanda, the represented Trevor, and councillors to ask the licensing officer questions about the report. Then Katie and Amanda will present their application with a maximum time of 15 minutes between them. Then Trevor and councillors may wish to ask questions about the application. Then Trevor can make his representation for up to 15 minutes, and the applicants and councillors may wish to ask questions about their representation. Trevor will then have 5 minutes to sum up, Katie and Amanda will then have 5 minutes to sum up, and councillors then ask any final points of clarification before making the decision in private. Is everyone comfortable and happy with that procedure?
Yes.
Good, fabulous. In which case, over to you, Leslie.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everybody. So this is the application for the grant of a premises licence for 42 Broadway, York. The licensable activities applied for are the supply of alcohol on and off the premises from 11 AM to 9:30 PM Sunday to Thursday, and 11 AM till 10:30 PM Friday and Saturday, with the opening hours 11 AM till 10 PM Sunday to Thursday, and 11 AM until 11 PM Friday and Saturday. A copy of the application and the plan of the premises can be found at Annex 1. And to help everybody today, I've put a larger plan of the premises on the tables. The premises is described in the application as a craft beer tap room and bottle shop on the ground floor of a detached property. The premises includes a retail area with shelving and fridges, and will sell alcohol and non-alcoholic options for takeaway or consumption on site. An overview of the circumstances in which entertainment activities are not licensable can be found at Annex 2. As part of the application, the operating schedule submitted by the applicant showing how the licensing objectives would be met can be found at paragraphs 10 to 14 on pages 16 to 19 of the report. I can confirm that the premises is not located within the community impact assessment area and that the consultation process has been carried out correctly. There are no representations before you today from responsible authorities. Public Protection has mediated with the applicant, who agreed to amend their operating schedule. The agreed condition can be found at Annex 3. There has been 7 relevant representations from other parties. 4 of these representations are in support of the application and 3 object to the application. The representatives' details can be found at Annex 4. The representations are based on the grounds of all 4 licensing objectives. The objectors state that the licensing objectives may be undermined if the application is granted. Their representations can be found at Annex 5. A map showing the general area around the premises can be found at Annex 6, and again I've produced a larger plan for everybody to see on the table. The committee has the following options when making your decision. Option 1, grant the licence in the terms applied for. Option 2, grant the licence with modified additional conditions imposed by the licensing committee. Option 3, grant the licence to exclude any of the licensable activities to which the application relates and modify, add conditions accordingly. Option 4, refuse to specify a person on the licence as premises supervisor. And option 5, reject the application. That's an overview of the report, Chair.
Thank you. Before we go into questions, could you just clarify one point around what use of the garden is permitted in this application for us, please?
The on the plan that everybody will have received, the licensed area is bordered in red, and because of the condition that has been placed within the operating schedules, that off sales will be in sealed containers. Open containers cannot leave the licensed area and go as an off sale, which it would be by going into the beer garden. The consumption of alcohol isn't a licensable activity, but the sale of alcohol is, and the fact that there is that condition that has been put within the application that off sales will be in sealed containers restricts what can occur in the beer garden.
Thank you very much. The questions first are from Kate and Amanda Speed. If you have any questions for Leslie about anything in the report. Any questions from Trevor to the licensing officer?
Okay. Well, I had a few points, but sort of better at the end, really. The environmental protection person said that they were happy with the noise risk assessment and a noise management plan. Are we not allowed to see those?
If the licence is granted today, the licence holder who at that time will have to produce those documentation to the environmental protection team. Environmental protection will have a look at it, make sure that they're satisfied with it, and they may go back to the licence holder and request some modifications. But once that document is agreed, it will form part of the licence. So it will be.
But we can't see it before the licence is given.
No, we haven't got that at this time.
Right. Okay. Can I just ask? Vertical drinking presumably means standing up. So there's going to be no standing up in the bar. Yeah, I don't know if this is a question for you or for the...
Vertical drinking does mean standing up. So if the applicant has stipulated there will be no vertical but drinking, that would mean people would be seated to drink.
So nobody can stand up? Sorry, is this a question for the...
You can ask, when it comes to the applicant, you can ask the applicant how that's going to be managed within the premises.
Okay, thank you. I didn't quite understand the sealed containers bit. What about draft? Is this another question for them? Sorry. You're selling draft beer as well, but for drinking on site and in the garden, presumably.
A sealed container, from the licensing perspective, a sealed container is something that has a sealed lid on the top. Right. So like if you buy a bottle of beer and you've got to use a bottle opener, or you've got to pull a can or get a corkscrew for a bottle of wine, that's a sealed container. So a pint glass of beer that's open could not leave the licensed area, because that would be it's an off sale if it leaves the licensed area. And if it's an open container, it would breach a license condition if this license was granted. Okay,
but there's draft beer on sale in the premises.
I believe that's what the applicant wants. They want to do draft as well as bottled canned drinks, yes.
As far as public nuisance aspect of the 4 conditions, can I ask what a dispersal policy is?
A dispersal policy would be something that the licence holder would put in place to make sure that when people leave their venue, that they don't cause a nuisance to those people that live within the vicinity, so that they'll ask customers to leave quietly, respect the neighbours, that type of thing.
Okay,
They might ask that if taxis come to pick somebody up, there's no peeping of horns and those type of things.
okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is for the councillors to ask any questions that we have of Leslie. I've got a few, if that's okay. We've already covered the maps and the red lines in Annex 1 and Annex 6. Page 49, Annex 5, first representative talks about, it says the proposal is to close at 11:30 p.m. I just wanted to confirm that page 15 says that that isn't the case, and that's just a misunderstanding by the representative, that it is 10 p.m. on some days and 11 p.m. on others, but never 11:30 closing time.
No, I think that's a mistake by the representative. Yeah, they've maybe not understood the application fully.
I mean, there might still be stand until 11:30. People are leaving at 11. That might be the point they were making, but just to clarify that point. And in terms of public nuisance and the paragraph after from the same objector about the area feeling unsafe, what is and isn't public nuisance in the context of people leaving and sound?
Public nuisance is all in somebody's personal, let's say it's same with antisocial behaviour, what I may find is okay, somebody else may find isn't. So it is basically for the licence holder within the vicinity of their premises to make sure that, you know, customers aren't leaving shouting, that, you know, taxis aren't arriving and peeping horns outside, especially if it is into the evening, because of course that's when it's quieter and people, well, not necessarily sleeping at that time, but there will definitely be not as much traffic, etc. on the road. So yeah, it's just asking people to keep noise levels down, especially as they leave the venue.
Thank you. Fourth representative, page 55, talks about late night refreshments. Can I confirm my understanding that late night refreshments doesn't apply to the snacks that are going to be available here?
No, late night refreshment is only licensable between 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. and that's if they're providing hot food and drink. So even if they were open at that time and selling a bag of crisps, it wouldn't be hot anyway. Yeah. But yeah, so the late night, their hours don't go into late night refreshment hours.
Thank you. And final one from me is, can you confirm that option 1, which is approval without modification, includes the Annex 3 modification that's been agreed ahead of time?
That would be option 2. I'm going to say I would just look at Sandra, because you are modifying the initial application by adding that additional condition that has been requested by Environmental Protection.
Okay, fabulous. No further questions from me. Anybody else got any additional comments? No, great. In which case, 15 minutes for Kate and Amanda to present, if that's okay.
So, good morning. My name's Katie Speed. This is my wife and business partner, Amanda. We're joint owners of the company Brewhemian Hopsody. For the purpose of today's meeting, I'll be presenting our information. However, at any point, Amanda's, of course, happy to answer any questions. I'd just like to ask you all to bear with me whilst I read from my notes. It's not usually how I'd want to present, but I am very nervous and I want to make sure that I don't forget anything in this obviously really important matter. So just to set the scene a little, Brewhemian Hopsody is a small independent craft beer taproom and bottle shop, and it's been our dream for a number of years now. We want to create a small community space for craft beer enthusiasts to come and taste new beers, be able to purchase them to enjoy at home. We do plan to sell other alcohol, non-alcoholic beverages and soft drinks, but our focus is craft beer. The ambience of the business is very relaxed, with people sampling a few expensive beers rather than drinking cheap beer to excess. Myself, I'm a responsible, caring, passionate person who upholds the law and has very high personal standards. I care about my local community and I want to enhance it, as well as be able to enjoy my new venture away from corporate life, where I spent nearly 20 years in the public sector with a great deal of responsibility. I'm a trustee of a local charity and a volunteer in a team who offers postvention and trauma support to people. I mention these things simply to give you an idea of my trustworthy character. Also, as you can see, I'm a middle-aged woman who clearly has no desire for busy, rowdy bars and drinking until 1 a.m. They, of course, have the place, but it's not for me and it's not for our business. The property we've renovated at 42 Broadway has previously been a farm shop, a card and gift shop, and then before that it was an off licence, so it has previously had a premises licence before. Before starting the venture, we proactively liaised with the council and police licensing teams to ascertain whether or not they could foresee any licensing concerns. Both authorities gave me some useful information which I've fed into the application process. Additionally, and again proactively, I have had a site meeting with council employees and the police to show them the venue and explain my plans further. These were both done before submitting the application. My intention was and will continue to be, going forwards, to work in partnership with all relevant authorities in a positive manner. Following the closure of the consultation period, we were aware that there were 3 representations objecting to the application. We wrote to each of them offering a personal one-to-one meeting. Nobody contacted us and everybody failed to engage. And that's a real shame because actually I could have probably answered some of the questions that you had just there if we could have had a conversation. I'd like to highlight 2 things now if I can. Firstly, it's important to say that none of the responsible authorities are here today raising concerns or objected to the application. I'm working with the council's environmental protection team to agree a noise management plan. Second point, there's a resident in the flat upstairs who has not made a representation or objection, and neither of any of our direct neighbours. The concerns from the representation can be summarised as follows: noise disturbance, antisocial behaviour and crime, and protection of children from harm. Unless the panel wishes me to do so, I do not intend to cover those areas that aren't relevant to the licensing objectives, such as parking, noise from other existing businesses, or some of the inaccuracies in the information. So I'll start with antisocial behaviour. The sale of alcohol itself does not lead to noise or antisocial behaviour. What can contribute to antisocial behaviour is the irresponsible sale or irresponsible consumption of alcohol. To evidence our commitment to the responsible sale of alcohol, we will have the following in place: a strict challenge 25 policy and clear documented staff training. It's also important to say that it will primarily be the 2 of us working in the business, and we'll be there to strictly oversee that there is no antisocial behaviour. We will have a dispersal policy in place to ensure that patrons leave the venue quietly after closing and are not congregating in the immediate area. The dispersal policy will state last orders will be a minimum of 30 minutes before closing time. So just as an example, on a Thursday, we wish to close at 10 p.m. and that means the sale of alcohol will stop at 9:30, which is allowing the 30 minutes for drinking up time, and therefore everybody will be dispersed by 10 p.m. If necessary, and if people want us to do so, we'll assist with public transport, calling taxis, giving bus times, that kind of thing, to ensure that there's no loitering outside the premises. Section 182 guidance, paragraph 2.27, clearly states that beyond the immediate area surrounding the premises, these are matters for personal responsibility of individuals under the law. An individual who engages in antisocial behaviour is accountable in their own right, i.e. we have responsibility for the immediate area and the vicinity of our premises, but not beyond. We've already stated that we'll have clear visible signage asking patrons to leave the area quietly and respect our neighbours. We're closing the beer garden and switching off lights at 9 p.m. so as to minimise disturbance to our neighbours, and we've purchased a colour CCTV system. 1 camera will be outside the front, which will also act as a deterrent for crime and antisocial behaviour. Using the Street Check website, the information for Broadway in June 2025, which is the latest data available, shows no instances of antisocial behaviour in the immediate vicinity of our premises. It does show 4 instances of shoplifting and theft, and it's the same data for the month prior. There are, however, reports of antisocial behaviour within the half-mile radius, but referring back to my quote from paragraph 2.27, that's the responsibility of the individuals, not the businesses selling the alcohol. It also occurred, obviously, before our business is trading, and therefore we'd ask that you don't use this to our detriment when considering the application. The points of speculation about the business, about issues it might cause, they're not facts, they're not certainty, and we believe that the risks are very clearly and carefully mitigated so far as reasonably practicable. Noise disturbance. I'm going to talk slightly about planning here, but bear with me because my point is relevant. So firstly, I'd like to point out that this has been considered heavily within the planning process and the application for change of use. The council mandated professional acoustic testing and soundproofing within the building, all of which we've complied with at significant cost. These have all been signed off and approved. As part of this, our noise impact report included the assessment of the use of beer garden and deemed acceptable noise levels. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Broadway, but it's a busy area and it's a noisy background level. Based on 20 patrons in the garden, the assessment demonstrated only a slight increase of approximately 2 decibels. To put this into context for you, the existing background noise levels were measured between 50 and 53 decibels. Play signage will be located in the garden, reminding patrons of our neighbours and to be respectful, and it will be made very clear that patrons must be indoors ahead of the 9 p.m. garden close. The noise management plan in conjunction with the council environmental protection team will be produced and of course signed off by them. However, we recognise that there are other potential sources of noise for business operations, not just our patrons. So we will take steps such as no bins will be emptied externally after 9 p.m, so we're not disturbing our neighbours. Bins will not be emptied by our waste management company until at least after 8 a.m. Patrons using external areas will be made aware that the venue has residential neighbours and that shouting and raised voices are unacceptable. If patrons frequently violate this, they'll be asked to leave. Staff will proactively monitor noise levels at regular intervals, and wherever possible, deliveries will be limited and combined. So move on to protecting children from harm. With regard to the comment from the representative about protecting children from harm, St Aldwood's Primary School has 2 other alcohol establishments which are in closer proximity than our businesses, and also another off sales with the co-op on Broadway. It's an opinion of the representative that walking past an alcohol premise harms children, not a fact. If there are evidence that simply walking past somewhere that sells alcohol harms children, surely these businesses would not be permitted either. I also noticed on my way in this morning, we've got St George's Primary School up at the top, which has a public house directly opposite. I don't want to appear unsympathetic to concerns, and I want to be very clear that we are very conscious of our role in protecting children from harm under the licensing objectives and also as responsible human beings. We have a company policy surrounding children that states no unaccompanied under 18s will be allowed to enter the premises at any time. Children must be accompanied by a responsible adult, and not only that, but they must be seated and closely monitored. Under 18s will be asked to leave premises by 7 p.m. at the very latest. As I've already mentioned, we will operate the strict Challenge 25 policy and we will maintain a refusals register. We've also identified some additional training that we will undergo and again make sure that is documented. This training that we've sourced is called Knock Back, Drink Less and Enjoy More. So this, just as an example, includes things on age verification policy, responsibilities of the DPS, the Challenge 25, acceptable forms of ID and fake ID awareness, refusals, due diligence, consequences of underage sales, and conflict resolution. In conclusion, there are other successful alcohol venues across the city who operate in residential areas and have flats above. They work in harmony with their local community. A couple of examples of these include the Crooked Tap in Acomb, the Angel on the Green in Bishopthorpe Road, and of course Your Vine in Fulford. We're a small independent business that will benefit the community and help combat loneliness and isolation. We aim to be a place where people can gather socially in a relaxed, peaceful atmosphere and enjoy what craft beer has to offer, whilst at the same time strictly adhering to and promoting the licensing objectives and drinking responsibility. I'd also like to add that there's a real excitement in the community. There's not a day go by where somebody doesn't ask when we're opening, and that, you know, people want this in the area. I believe I've addressed all the representatives' relevant concerns, but please feel free to ask any questions if you'd like clarification. Respectfully ask that the panel approve our licence application today, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. You have 3 minutes left if there's anything else that you do want to add.
I think that's
Either
all.
of
Thank you.
Thank you, and well presented. Thank you very much. We go straight into Trevor Palmer's questions for the applicant. If there are any questions, you've got a maximum of 5 minutes for that. That's okay.
You said that you were going to put seats and tables out in the front, but the front is a pavement.
Yes, I think that was put on the application, wasn't it? That was just to get authorisation. We don't actually think we want to do that now, because you're right, it is a pavement. We want to, we've recognised since we've been doing work in there, we've recognised that there's a lot of mobility scooters. We don't think that the seating out the front will be the right thing to do.
So is that going to be written in that you don't put tables and chairs out? There's absolutely no room with the car park.
Not sure what the process would be to.
If you wanted to say that we could make a condition on it, we could make a condition on it, but it's not typical. I mean, it is private land on the front before you get to the pavement where cars are parked at the moment. My understanding.
If it's public highway, say managed by the council, if they wanted to put tables and chairs on the public highway, they would have to go through the council's highways team to get a pavement cafe licence. If they sometimes a little bit of land in front of the premise is actually in the ownership of the premises. I don't know if that's the situation with your particular venue, but that should have been, I would think, be covered by what you got granted with regards to planning application.
Yeah, as you rightly point out, it is private land, but as Amanda said, we have reviewed that, and it's not something that we're necessarily looking to do at this time.
But you're not going to rule it out. Sorry. But you're not going to rule it out.
I wouldn't necessarily rule it out ever. However, at this time, it's not something we're planning to do.
You say that you're going to close the outdoor area at 9 to limit noise. So that's a tacit admittance that noise is okay up till 9 o'clock.
I think as I pointed out, and as I mentioned in my statement there, the professional noise assessments that we've had have only shown a small increase in that. Yes, of course, you're going to get noise from people having a conversation. You would get noise from people walking down the street having a conversation. However, as I've mentioned, it will be very clearly managed. We're not the kind of business that is going to attract rowdy people drinking to access. That is not what we want, and anybody acting in such a way will be asked to leave the premises.
You said there was no representation from your local neighbours. There was one representation whose garden butts right onto your beer garden. And he's made a very clear statement how noisy it could affect him.
It's not the beer garden directly, it's further down the street. It's about 4 doors down. It doesn't actually directly go into our beer garden.
Well, 4 doors, it's not far, is it, as far as noise carrying goes? Anyway, that's a point I'm just pointing out. You said there was no local representation.
Yes,
Direct
neighbours.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you very much. All right. Any questions for the applicant from the subcommittee, from any of the three of us? Yes, Mark.
I've got a couple of questions. Did I hear you right? Did you say that anybody under 18 would be out of the premises by 7?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Thank you. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the seating. In the application, I read that it was 15 lots of seating. Do you anticipate more than that?
Yeah, we're providing seating for 30.
For 30.
Yeah.
And what about outside? How much have you any ideas about outside?
We've not got final figure, but when we did the noise assessment, we based the figures on 20.
Thank you. And the only other thing that I was wanting to know was, I must have misheard, because I understood that you were turning the lights off in the beer garden at 9, but you're actually closing the beer garden. Is that right?
Yes, yeah. So beer garden fully closed, people inside and lights off.
Yeah. One of the objections that we had was about people hurling bottles over the walls. Can I ask about bins in the beer garden?
Yeah, we'll certainly be providing bins. I've never been in a pub beer garden yet where people have.
I know.
bottles over,
I'm just.
absolutely.
But
yes, of course, we'll be
So we'll be providing bins. Sorry, jumping.
No, no.
We'll be providing bins. But also, as Katie mentioned, it's going to be both of us there. We're not going to. So we're going to care about this place. We want it to look nice. We're not going to want litter. We're not going to want bottles laying around. So we are going to make sure that it's not acceptable to throw things or leave things.
And regularly collecting them as well, you know, so you
yeah.
won't have a table full of empties, they'll be brought back in.
Yeah.
And the bins aren't going to be touched between 9 PM and 8 AM. Is that what you said?
Externally, so that we're not
Yeah.
fostering noise
Yeah.
for our neighbours, yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Just going to the closing at 9. That's assuming you did fantastic, successful for Saturday night, packed inside 30 people. Then you go outside and say to 20 people, can you come inside now because we're closing? How are you going to deal with that?
I think on occasions where you're going to have 20 people in a beer garden, it's going to be a warm summer's evening, and therefore you're not going to have 30 people inside. If we do, then we might take the decision to close early, but you know, our capacity will be our capacity, and you know,
We understand the
people will
importance
be
of the
happy to-
capacity, so we won't go over that.
Right.
And we'll manage it however we see fit at the time for that
Cool.
situation.
And just going back to the on and off sales, in theory, somebody could ask for 2 pints in a sealed container and 2 pints in a draft. Then you say to them, can you not take the draft outside? But how are you going to deal with that situation?
Yeah, so
Which will be some tricky questions.
Yeah, no, and unfortunately we were misadvised when we put the application in. So as we've been informed now, we can only have sealed containers outside. Therefore, if people have a pint of draft, they cannot consume it outside. We'll inform people of that. I think we're lucky that it's the time of year it is. It's going to be cold outside anyway. So I imagine until next spring, we're going to make very little use of the beer garden anyway, yeah.
I presume light snacks means crisps and nuts.
Yes.
Yes.
Nobby's not.
Just to, I guess, to clarify on that point, the original intention was to use the outdoor beer garden for draft as well as for tins.
It was, yes.
It was.
Does that mean it's likely that there's going to be a follow-up application to vary to
Yes.
do that in the future?
Yeah.
The 30-minute off sale, just to check, you are selling up to 30 minutes before closing time. That includes off sale to take out the front. You're not selling cans in the last 30 minutes either on that front.
Yeah.
Okay. On the direct neighbours and flat above, they haven't objected, but they also haven't supported. Have you had conversations with them about whether they are kind of hesitant but haven't put in an objection, or if they're fully in support? Or
We've had a lot of conversations with the gentleman who lives upstairs. As it happens, he works evenings and he's actually really supportive of us. We haven't spoken to the lady at the back. To be honest, we did consider it. We just haven't.
no, that's okay. Obviously, there are 2 properties at the back, as you say. You then have that snicket, and then you've got 4 properties before the objector. So there's that distance in terms of direct neighbours, but there are still obviously objections from nearby neighbours around sound.
Yes, of course.
A few questions to tease out your thoughts on them. If you're not intending to do front tables, would you object to having a condition that restricted you from having tables out the front?
No.
Children out by 7 PM, would you be happy to have a condition that said you had to have children out by 7? And 30 inside, 20 outdoor capacity, would you be happy with conditions limiting you to only those numbers?
Yeah.
And ditto for no bins after 9 p.m. and before 8 a.m., which isn't mentioned in paragraph 13 of the report or the box MD around sound, etc. But is that something you'd be happy to be conditioned? And the only last one I had from me was the conversation and the objector number 7, well, represented number 7 on page 61 about the snicket and fully acknowledging the limits to where your responsibilities, in licensing lie, but obviously you're wanting the area to be pleasant. You're not wanting to have an impact. Have you got any thoughts about potentially people who might take things off site and then might litter in the snicket? Is there anything that you would be thinking of doing?
We have said, I don't think you actually read it out, but we will do a sort of check of any litter that's round the front and down sort of our part of the snicket. We're not going to sort of probably go to the end on to the next street, but we do want our area to look nice. So we're happy to do that. But people taking off sales, we don't want them loitering and drinking outside our shop anyway. So it's unlikely that there's going to be litter from our bar. It's like walking out of the co-op with a can and opening. We don't want drinking in front of the bar.
Yeah.
The co-op do actually proactively do a litter pick as well. So what we'll work with all the businesses on to work together to make sure it's a nice area.
I mean, my assumption from reading it with no knowledge of it whatsoever is if there is existing snicket stuff, it'd be more likely to be from the co-op than from much further afield.
But the co-op
but they do a regular to pit. And you said it was the thinking at the end of a shift when you're closing up, you do a quick spot check. That's the point.
Yes.
Fabulous. I've got no other questions from my side.
Sorry, I forgot one. Just on the plan where you got the retail and seating, what sort of, because obviously you just got the map and it just says seating retail.
Yeah.
Where does the sort of the shelving and the seating sort of begin and end?
So the retail area down to the bottom right hand side, there are shelves and refrigeration along that right hand side wall, and then down the left hand side wall is a series of tables and chairs. We've got a couple of comfy chairs towards the back, and then in the window we've got some high stools.
Right, cool.
Fab. In which case we move on to our representative's case. Trevor, you have 15 minutes. I don't know if you're planning on using all of it, but you've got 50 minutes if you'd like to.
Okay, thank you. I won't take that long. I'd just like to make 2 general points. One's about parking, one's about noise, and a plea to have a quiet residential Bulford. But firstly, parking. I see a difference between retail and a drinking or eating establishment when it comes to parking. When people go shopping, they leave their cars for a few minutes or whatever to buy what they want, and then they're out. But any eating or drinking establishment, people arriving by car will be leaving their cars for some period of time, which exacerbates an already congested parking area in front of the shops in Broadway. Excuse me. It's already congested parking on Broadway, where already people are parking up Broadway to go shopping. And in effect, Broadway now has become a single file road a lot of the time, purely because of the number of cars who can't park in the car parking area and park up Broadway. So I'm just making a general point that a difference between retail shops and a drinking or eating establishment. I presume McDonald's application to open in Fulford Road near Aldi, I presume, I may be wrong, one of the reasons it was turned down was because people going and eating in a restaurant will be leaving their cars for a long period of time. So I think this will add enormous congestion to the whole parking area, the cars congested on Broadway and in those shops. I can't see any other way that won't be impacted. People will be coming, some people will be coming by car. Secondly, noise. I've lived in Fulford for 42 years, and Fulford is a wonderful suburb of York. It's a residential area. There's no industry, there's no commerce, and people come to Fulford for that reason. One of the reasons is for that reason. And I'm just making a general point about noise in general is becoming a real issue. You can't go anywhere without noise happening these days. Every shop seems to have noise in the background. I went to my dentist a couple of weeks ago, and even he had music on in the background. I couldn't believe it. It's just getting too much. And okay, I understand everything you've said about your management of noise, but I can't see any other impact than increasing noise levels. Something happens when people drink alcohol, then the voices get louder. I live directly behind the Jim Crack pub, what was the Jim Crack pub. Those of you remember when it was a pub, they had a big beer garden, they had a children's play equipment area, and throughout spring, summer and autumn, every Saturday and Sunday, apart from when it was raining, the noise was unbearable. And I couldn't go out in my garden because it was just ruined the experience. So I've got first-hand experience of having a drinking establishment on my doorstep. And so it's a general plea about noise. I may be the only one who thinks that there's more music days coming on the racecourse now. And that noise comes across directly. And it does ruin your afternoon if you don't want to hear rock music on a sunny afternoon. Fulford doesn't need a Bishopthorpe Road area full of eating and drinking and what Bishopthorpe has for those people who want it. That's fine, but I'm here to plead that Fulford remains a residential area. I got a general point for the committee. Planning permission was given for the establishment of a drinking establishment. And so the premises is being kitted out. And only now we're talking about a license. It seems to be too far, too late. It's agreed. You've already given the green light, basically, earlier with the planning. And so that's a general point about the timing of this process. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay.
Thank you very much for making those points clear. Any questions for Trevor from Katie and Amanda first?
Not a question as such, but I'd just like to address a couple of comments, if that's okay.
I think is it questions only?
Questions only.
You've got 5 minutes to sum up at the very end after this as well.
Okay. So just one question then. You don't directly live on Broadway, do you?
No, I don't.
Thank you.
Any more from you guys or Fab? Questions from our side of the table? Just to, I guess, address the point about the latent licensing, which I appreciate isn't a question, but it's the risk to take of getting planning before licensing. Licensing can be rejected today, and if so, then money has been spent on a property that hasn't got a license.
Yeah, it's down to the two completely separate processes, and it's down to the operator of a premises determining which one they apply for first.
No questions from me. So we'll move into well, the 5 minute sum up that you have the right to, if you'd like to make any other points up to 5 minutes, Trevor.
No, thanks. That's fine.
Fab, and then 5 minutes for the applicants.
Yeah, so One thing that I would like to add, and as you're aware, parking's a planning issue rather than a licensing issue. But one of the things that we have said that we're going to do is offer some public transport initiatives. So, for example, if people who visit us can produce a bus ticket, we will refund that bus ticket or take it off the cost of a drink to try and encourage that. I'm well aware that parking is an issue in the local area, but we want people to come and drink in our establishment. So wherever possible, we will be discouraging car use. In terms of the noise, I'd just like to reiterate, you know, we can't be blamed for existing noise, and we do again referring back to that paragraph 2.27. It's individual responsibility once they're away from the premises. So I think again, and at the risk of repeating myself, just to reiterate that the business it's for craft beer enthusiasts. It's not a mass drinking pub. The products that we'll be selling are expensive. You know, you're talking anything up to £10 a pint. People are not going to come and have 10 pints at £10 a pint. It's just not something that happens. We're personally going to manage this. It's something that we do. I've quit my job to do this, so this is going to be my passion, and I will be monitoring it. And as I said right at the beginning, I do not want to be in a rowdy bar environment. That would drive me crazy. We want to be a community venue, and yeah, we want to assist the community and work with them. That's anything that you want to add?
I think you've summed it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Final part of this aspect of the agenda is the subcommittee final points of clarification from us for, I guess, licensing and legal. Before we go into any questions from us, as you've heard everything that's been said and any hypotheticals and comments around parking, everything else, is there anything that you want to clarify from your side or add? No? Fab? Any questions?
I'd just like to ask for a bit more clarification about the difference between our committee as the licensing one and the planning committee. There seems to be a bit of confusion why the planning committee isn't saying that there is a right for a license, are they? If they approve a licensing bill?
No, they're not. The same way if the applicant have come to us first and got the premises licence first, that isn't then the council saying to planning, you've got to give this premises change of use. And they're two completely separate regimes. And the Licensing Act is clear that we've got to look at the licensing objectives and consider every application with regards to the licensing objectives, and planning will have its own area that it has to look at with regards to amenity. But I know that Sandra's a much more up to date with what planning look at than myself.
And the other thing is to do with the parking. Presumably that's a planning issue rather than a licensing issue.
I do know that planning do look at the parking situation. From a licensing perspective, you could look at parking with regards to if you consider it to be a public nuisance. So that could be the fact of people slamming doors going, you know, if at midnight somebody was slamming doors going back into a car in a residential area, but you could only look at it from the public nuisance perspective.
Thank you.
Anything from you, Michael? All good. I just wanted to run a few things past. We've kind of covered the parking bit. I just wanted to ask first. There was a mention of an off-license license a while back. Was that expired through lapsing, or was it revoked at some point?
Yeah, we did license a store called Local there as an off license, and that license lapsed in January 2010. So that could have been because the license holder went into administration or something along those lines.
Thanks. Yeah, so I lived on Enfields Road in Anson Drive, around the corner from here at different times, and vaguely remember it, but I wasn't sure if there was public nuisance and that's why it was taken away, but it was just because it lapsed. The only other questions I had were some of those points that have been raised around potential conditions and whether they're lawful. So just running them all by you. I assume on the latter point that was mentioned that we didn't have the ability to ask about, but we couldn't put a condition on to demand bus tickets are refunded or anything like that, presumably.
No, you couldn't do that, no.
Crossed out my list. The other ones we had were tables in front. That is something we could restrict as a condition.
Yeah, the problem with, as said earlier, that non-licensable activities could take place at those tables that wouldn't be within our remit.
But could we have a condition to say they weren't allowed to put tables out in front, even though you can't stop people from drinking out front?
We're getting out of the line of what
That's
is licensable and what isn't, and we can only look at what is licensable. I'm sure, I don't know if Sandra wants to add anything.
Chair, yes, I would agree with the licensing manager that to say that there cannot be tables at the outside front of the premises would be a step too far. It's not part of the licensable area, and I don't think it can be controlled through licensing conditions in that way.
Same for a condition around children after 7 p.m. Is that something that can be conditioned?
The Licensing Act is very clear on what children can and can't do in licensed premises, and we've got that with regards to children. The Licensing Act is that a child is somebody under the age of 16. I know that you still can't drink alcohol at 16 and 17, but the Licensing Act is clear that children can be in licensed premises until midnight. But if the applicant is, I know that the applicant hasn't applied until midnight in this case, but if the applicant is happy that children won't be allowed on the premises until after a certain time, that the applicant could have put that as part of their application if they wished, and it would have gone on the licence.
But we could apply. I'm not saying that is meant to happen. It is something that could be conditioned.
Yes, yeah.
So minded. And ditto for capacity, 30 inside, 20 outside. Is that something that can be conditioned that there's a maximum number of people allowed in the beer garden, for example?
We can condition the maximum amount of people allowed in the premises if we can bring it in line with one or more of the licensing objectives. But I'm pretty sure, I don't know the actual floor area of this premises, but I'm sure that the applicant will be doing a fire safety risk assessment, which they have to do, and that they'll make sure that 30 isn't above the number that they can get in from a fire safety risk assessment perspective. But yes, we have conditioned the number of people that can go in the premises before.
Thanks. And final one, I'm pretty sure it has been conditioned a number of times, is bins after 9 p.m. and before 8 a.m. That can be conditioned as well for bins sound.
Yes, because that would potentially be a public nuisance, and that's something that regularly goes on a licence. Again, with regards to the outside area, though, it's not within the licensable area, yeah. So we're in that area again where it's out of our control.
Yeah, I guess for clarity, any hypothetical future applications to vary the licence isn't at all relevant to today. Today is just about the licence in front of us, which is sealed containers in beer garden only.
Yeah, that's what the application that's before you today. Yes, Chair.
Anything else from us? Any other comments to be made? Fabulous. In which case, double checking the exact wording, we're going to close the public hearing to reconvene in private for deliberations, and we will return to the webcast once the decision has been made. And if you want to stay, then we're happy to make that announcement to you as well, of course. But for now, we'll go into private session. Thank you. Thank you very much for waiting. Appreciate it was a little while. We have made a decision as a subcommittee. The decision is option 2, granting the license applied for with the addition of 2 conditions. The first is detailed in Annex 3, the agreed condition from public protection for a noise management plan. The second is to restrict the hours of filling and collecting external bins between the hours of 9 PM and 8 AM to limit sound. The exact wording will be included in the detailed decision letter, which will go to all parties and explain rights to appeal. Thank you very much for your time. There's nothing else, is there? We'll close the meeting there. Thank you.